Let me show you a video. Trigger warning, it's a
Please don't.
Thatcher.
Where there is discord, may we bring harmony.
Why they seemed so desperate for war. I guess this video came out yesterday. Might be interesting because everybody is very desperate for war. Yes.
Where there is error, may we bring truth. Where there is doubt, may we bring faith. And where there is despair, may we bring hope.
This is Margaret Thatcher, about to enter 10 Downing Street for the first time as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in May 1979. If you can hear it above the crowd, she's
mein
from the
combine.
so-called Prayer of Francis of Assisi, better known in its set to music as the hymn Make Me a Channel of Your Peace. Also featured in the hit musical Come From Away. Thatcher opted not to mention the peace bit, which might be for the best. Because if there was one key event which held Thatcher's premiership in place, it wasn't peace, but war. Here's Margaret Thatcher on a tank. See, Thatcher's time in office didn't start off all that well. Her government was really keen to cut inflation. And in order to...
That was funny. I have to admit, that was pretty funny. Here's Margaret Thatcher on a tank is a great bit. That's funny.
To do so, chose to hike interest rates to an incredible 17%. This was a period where most Brits had variable rate mortgages, which meant that homeowners' monthly repayments briefly spiked in an incident of exceptionally brief hardship, which British uncles still talk about as though they were victims of some kind of war crime. The country fell into a recession, and the number of people out of work surpassed 3 million for the first time since the 1930s. Through all this, Thatcher's popularity cratered. Immediately after delivering that poem from Francis of Assisi, she'd boasted a net approval rating of +2. By the end of 1981, a year which had involved widespread rioting in Liverpool, Manchester and London, and the premiere of the less good musical Cats, that had dropped to -41. Then something happened which was to change all of that.
Argentinian scum!
On the morning of the 2nd of April 1982,
one of the most insane wars of all time. Like, Britain is combusting in on itself because of right-wing governance that literally said we have to bail out the ultra-wealthy and readjust to late-stage capitalism, like early parts of late-stage capitalism. And obviously the filthy poors will not like this. So let's hate on a nationality that we famously had beef with in Britain, the Argentinians. Up until that moment, most British thought that Argentina is a style of dance, probably. And now they needed to deploy and shoot them. None of us knew where the hell the Falklands were until we went to war. Exactly. People
say people from Brooklyn.
What is this? Что это, блядь?
People say people from Brooklyn curse a lot, but they don't mean to. Certain words are adjectives to them. Like when I was going to college, I was in a history class with a friend of mine who was from Brooklyn, and the professor was talking about when Argentina attacked the Falkland Islands. So, this guy's going, yo, professor, what Falkland Islands you talking about? So the professor's like, I don't think you understand. He's going, hey, no, you don't understand. I ask you a question. I gotta know what Falkland Islands you're talking about. There's Falkland Islands all over the place. What am I supposed to put on a test for crying out loud? So the professor's like, look, there's only one Falkland Island. He's like, hey, moron. Hey, read my lips, all right? There's Falkland Islands all over the world. Look at the map. Look at it. See those little pieces of dirt floating around in the water? Do you know what they are? They're Falkland Islands. You got the Hawaiian Falkland Islands, the Bermuda Falkland Islands, the Caribbean Falkland Islands, and somewhere on there, you got Gilligan's Falkland Islands.
Thank you, Barry. This show would never be the same without you, man. Oh, my God.
630.
Whoa. I love Saint Levant.
From the Argentine military landed on and swiftly wrested control of the Falkland Islands. The small archipelago in the South Atlantic had been under continuous British administration since the 1830s, although Argentina had long claimed the islands too. Argentina itself had been under a military dictatorship since 1976, and the government's campaign of violence against its own people had led to civil unrest. Argentina's leader, Galtieri, thus made the decision to seize the islands in an attempt to rally some support behind himself and his regime. The Argentinians hadn't expected Britain to respond, believing the islands to be too far away and too unimportant to be worth defending. Some of Thatcher's government felt similarly. She didn't. Thatcher dispatched a task force of 127 ships, including a nuclear submarine, to retake the islands. Over 74 days, the British armed forces fought to retake them. 255 British and 649 Argentine soldiers died before General Mario Menendez surrendered on the 14th of June. Galtieri, who had only initiated the invasion in pursuit of popularity, was removed from power, and the military dictatorship collapsed not long after. Thatcher, on the other hand, a poll carried out in June 1982 recorded an approval rate of plus 23, a jump of more than 50 percentage points from 18 months before. From being at risk of being ousted by her enemies within the Tory party, she went on to win 2 more elections and become the longest-serving Prime Minister.
Wait. Is this a 35-minute video making the thesis that when governments struggle, they go to war so that you don't pay attention to the problems at home? Because that could have been an email. But fun nonetheless.
In modern British history, war, it seems, can sometimes be pretty good for embattled politicians. Whatever drawbacks it might have in terms of casualties and cost, it can provide a means of drumming up support where previously little existed. On an unrelated note, Donald Trump keeps threatening to invade places.
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I...
Peace. Have you considered a balaclava with a shaped mouth nose box so you can breathe freely? Yeah, I have. It looks like shit. I bought one this winter. It works absolutely even in minus 50. I will never wear a balaclava that is tied across my mouth and nose again. Yeah, it sucks, but like on a stream it looks weird. But IRL, yes, I always wear balaclavas with holes in it. I wear balaclavas outside. Yes, of course I do, man.
I want to be a peacemaker and a
Maybe try a leather one, motherfucker.
This is Donald Trump, delivering his second inaugural address in January 2025. Trump had talked about wanting to be a quote-unquote peacemaker a lot on the campaign trail.
I will prevent, and very easily, World War III, very easily.
He professed to be able to end the war in Ukraine in just 24 hours, and humbly told voters in Michigan that he was the candidate of peace.
I am the candidate of peace. I am peace.
He actually says, "I am peace," which is a fantastic line. It's the Democrats, he told voters, who are the warmongers. He was the man who was going to end the so-called forever.
That's why he kidnapped the Venezuelan president, because the Venezuelan president was taking the I am peace away from him.
Wars.
They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop
Mr. Maduro, what were some of the last words you ever said? Peace.
wars.
Immediately after getting into office, he set his heart on transforming this apparent love of peace into a Nobel Peace Prize, going on what can only be described as a for-your consideration campaign for the award, in which he repeatedly claimed to have ended 8 conflicts.
Everyone says that I should get...
And the even more interesting conversation here is that you can just say things and then not follow through on them. And your lobotomized army of political followers will unironically be like, oh, he is the peace president. But sir, look at all the... He bombed the capital of this country, and he invaded this one, and he's supporting genocide in this one. And now he's threatening an attack on this one. No, he is peace president. But no, he's not. No, he is. He said he is. Post-truth is kind of a political conundrum that is very difficult to get out of. because for a very simple reason. Why? Because it's you're trying to inspire consciousness, any sort of political consciousness, just class consciousness, in a very large demographic, which is to a very real extent just like completely illiterate.
The Nobel Peace Prize for each one of these achievements.
Therefore, the funnels necessary for that kind of group are stuff that at this point at least, the left, especially the American left, is not equipped to handle. I am not. That's not the type of funnel I talk to. My beautiful chat is unironically like very intelligent people that are fucking socialists that we can, grow our ideological and material understanding of the world with and through. But that part of the beginning of the funnel that is literally just filled up with troglodytes is very, 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 very fascinating to me. Especially when underpinned by American exceptionalism.
He was snubbed by the Academy.
No, I don't care about the Nobel Prize.
In the end, he had to settle for a FIFA Peace Prize at a weird ceremony which was a kind of Avengers Endgame for corruption. Unfortunately for him, Trump's second time in office didn't start well. Over the course of his first year back in power, the US was gripped by an affordability crisis in which, despite headline inflation rates remaining relatively low, Americans struggled with the high cost of housing, healthcare, energy, and eggs. His brutal attempts to address perceived illegal immigration through setting barely trained ICE agents loose on the streets of American cities was not the vote winner he thought it might be. All the while, the Epstein files, in which Trump definitely isn't massively implicated, constantly threatened to drop.
President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein.
Trump managed to hold on to a positive approval level for less than 2 months before sentiment began to float ever downward. A year in, he turned a +2 net approval rate into -19. Which is presumably why he decided to try and do something to change all of that.
Good night. Happy New Year.
In September 2025, Donald Trump announced that he was renaming the US Department of Defense the Department of War, a return to the name that the department had held until 1947. It quickly became clear that he meant it. Or kind of. The period since has been witness to an avalanche of not quite warmongering by Trump and his allies. There were the airstrikes on apparent drug smuggling vessels in the Caribbean. There was the bombastic attack on Caracas and seizure of Nicolas Maduro. There was the announcement of the Donroe Doctrine and the intention to hold full control over what Marco Rubio called our hemisphere.
This is the Western Hemisphere, this is where we live, and we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
There were the follow-up threats to Cuba, Colombia, and Mexico.
Cuba looks like it's ready to fall.
Things really reached a head with the will he, won't he hints at potentially seizing Greenland from Denmark, which is supposed to be an ally. Then when that turned out to be the equivalent of dropping a turd on the international stage, he turned his attention to Iran.
We're watching Iran. We're watching Iran. We have a lot of ships going that direction, just in case.
And there's probably been at least one more thing since we filmed this. It's been a lot. Donald Trump's path from peacemaker to warmonger has not been the same as Margaret Thatcher's. Thatcher was, in a way, lucky. The Falklands happened to her. Trump, by contrast, has consistently been the instigator of his conflicts. Their needs in the moment of war, however...
Also, they exist in two very different eras, okay? The American populace is beyond tired of constant warfaring, okay? And the British didn't even know who they're going to go shoot, and they were promised they're going to win very easily. Screaming at Americans that it's a great idea to deploy thousands upon thousands of troops on fucking Iran is not the same as pitching the same thing to the Brits back in the day when it comes to attacking the Falklands, right?
But are not dissimilar. Here are two leaders elected on radical manifestos who nonetheless quickly found themselves deeply unpopular, even among many on their own side.
ICE, DHS, Kristi Noem have been a political disaster.
Two leaders in desperate need of something to change the narrative. Two leaders wanting to unite their countries behind
This dude always seems to be half right. It's like sophomore political scientist guy. That's what he is.
them. To say that Donald Trump might be using war.
This is 35-minute video on politicians that are struggling tend to pitch war. Like, my 15-year-old cousin knows that. Like,
or at least partly as a means to achieve a similar turnaround in domestic support.
But it's great for like beginning of the funnel. So God bless. Great work. I don't mean to undermine it. I'm just saying that it's like completely not bottom, top of the funnel, like completely top of the funnel.
However, seems kind of obvious. If you've not worked that one out for yourself already, there are plenty of commentators willing to tell you that. What I've become more and more interested in over the past few months, however, is the extent to which similar patterns appear to be repeating across the world. Across continents and across the political spectrum, we have found ourselves in a world of deeply unpopular leaders. Some of them have sought out war. Others decry.
Yeah, and why are they unpopular? Because of the crisis the economic system we find ourselves has found itself in. And when you cannot address said economic system, you have to do something else.
That have nevertheless succumbed to the emergence of a world of rearmament and remobilization. Is a world of disliked and disconnected leaders marching us towards war? And maybe less importantly, will it actually serve to make any of them any more popular?
It marks the return of the RAF to nuclear deterrent.
The second question is more important and more interesting. Because I feel like, and this is a half-assed analysis on my end, right? I feel like the kids are all right, and the kids don't give a shit about serving the military interests of whatever Western state, or any state, not just Western. So, like, you know, you can't ideologically push them that way. You can't make it popular, but you can force them into it, though. You can definitely force them into it. Hi, Hugo, I follow you on YouTube. I thought it would be funny to tell you that my country in Texas is trying to change a major highway name into Charlie Kirk Corridor. I love that. I love that. And what would you call, like, any of the holes that you find in that highway? It would be very problematic to have holes in that highway. What kind of holes? The highway always responded before receiving more holes. We drive on Charlie Kirk. Yo, bro, meet me on Charlie Kirk for me to give you those 3 grams of coke. Texas carries the flame. No joke, I drive by a Kirk billboard. No, there are tons of people my age going to military due to financial ruin. No, absolutely. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. That's going to increase in numbers as, capitalism go down. But ideological fighters are going to be rare.
For the first time in 3 decades, representing the biggest strengthening of our deterrence posture in a generation.
It's not just Trump. Rearmament and heightened military rhetoric is very much the theme of our age.
Yeah. Deutschland, Deutschland, unter alles, bro. Thank you, Nickel Pickle Live. What a great name, Nickel Pickle. Hey, Rick, I'm Nickel the Pickle. Thank you for the sub. Welcome to the community.
There are, of course, the obvious examples. Vladimir Putin and Benjamin Netanyahu were among the earliest adopters of this new international logic in which might always equals right. Neither the invasion of Ukraine nor the genocide in Gaza were unprecedented. They both represented attempts to achieve long-standing national desires and settle long-standing national scores. What was different was the sheer scale of military force used to do so. This has required a complete reshaping of both countries'
Let me guess, he's only going to talk about the Russians and very little about the Israelis.
economies. Russia's military
Also, I love when you make that comparison.
spending has increased by 126% since 2020. Spending on the military and police currently accounts for around 38% of total government spending. Israel's destruction of Gaza has involved similar shifts. The mobilization of reservists has led to regular labor shortages in peacetime industries, even as hefty salaries for those fighting has kept the economy looking pretty healthy.
Now it's turning to African countries to plug the gap. More than 200 farm workers left Malawi for Israel last month following a secret deal with the government.
Neither country has simply gone to war.
Implying that Israel has not been at war throughout the entirety of its existence. And by war, I mean war against the existence of Palestinians. And implying that the current ramping up of the genocide is simply explained away by the unpopularity of Benjamin Netanyahu and not the inevitable continuation of the colonial project towards its unavoidable conclusion, which again is a full exterminatus. It's simplistic. That's what it is. It's simplistic.
Or they have, to an even greater extent than before, placed conflict at the core of their economies, diplomatic relationships.
Yes, that has been the case with Israel since its inception. And it has also been the case with the United States since its inception, and to a lesser but still important level, France, that he mentioned earlier as well.
And national identities.
Regarding the new sanctions, first of all, there is nothing new here. Yes, they are of a serious nature for us, of course, this is understandable. And they will have certain consequences. But still, they will not significantly affect our economic well-being.
The region which I think is most revealing of the way the world is headed, however, is Western Europe. Surprise, I think the place where I live is the most interesting. Really lucky, really fortunate coincidence.
We are used to politicians with a sort of...
Western Europe is relevant. It's completely relevant.
Moral vision of...
It is posturing on top of posturing on top of posturing. British rearmament is a tax exuded... Western European rearmament is a tax exuded by the United States of America on Western European countries. They told them you have to increase NATO spending and you have to give us most of that funding. Even if it's going to British or French or German, the military-industrial complex, it's always partially or fully owned by larger American capital and utilizes resources for rearmament that always pays outbalanced percentage, larger percentage to the Americans than it does to the quote-unquote local economy, even though one can argue that putting money into the military-industrial complex, except for making GDP go up, doesn't actually contribute to any standard increase of life standards domestically. What is interesting about Western Europe potentially is the pivot away from the United States of America, which we do not see happening, except in rhetoric, but we'll see.
Taking us towards utopia, grounded on values which are either religious values or are straightforward traditional post-Marxist socialist values. Now that kind of vision politics is alien to Keir Starmer.
For all he likes to talk about mission-driven government, his government has lacked a unifying...
Speaking of mission-driven, our mission is failing. I repeat, our mission is failing. We are like the British Ireland when it comes to its relevancy towards the sub-count. Last month, this day, the sub-count, I guess we increased it a lot. But today, we are not. And it is dropping like a fly. So I encourage all my beautiful taxpayers that were thinking about potentially subscribing to do it today or this month so that we can go up big time. Very nice. I lowered the potential gamma to 3,300. Pay your taxes, Westerners. 500 people and only 2 Westerners paying their taxes. Come on. Tell me you're European without telling me you're European. And everyone else. Thank you very much, 420 Hedgehog. Thank you for your Tier 1. Welcome to the community. Taxpayers, Oilers, all the fronts of the great purple chat. You know what to do. If you can. If you cannot, then God bless, God bless. But it would be nice to Gamba on a Tuesday especially. Make it feel like a Friday. Would be pretty nice. Pretty fucking nice.
Heck, I've made that argument on this very channel. You keep saying that your mission is growth, or sometimes national.
There we go. Developing World Chatters is always holding up more than half the sky. Thank you, Easy Breezy. Fucking great name. Thank you very much for paying forward a sub as well. Developing World Chatters, exclamation point tax. Show the Western non-taxpayers that you are what is relevant and that the West is actually the impoverished shithole that we all know it is. Thank you, Easy Breezy.
Renewal, whatever that means, but that's a bit like saying that my business makes profit. Growth is an outcome. It's not a mission. And yet, amid all of this flip-flopping, there is a set of policies on which Starmer has remained steadfastly consistent. Keir Starmer is a prime minister of rearmament. More than anything else, his government has been one of preparing for war. The manifesto on which the Labour Party was elected back in 2024 included in it a pledge to set out the path to spending 2.5% of GDP on defence. Starmer has since promised to speed up his ambitions here, aiming to achieve...
Yes, they are 100% as Tony Blair. Like, for those of you who are young, Tony Blair was a Labour guy that basically helped invent the "we are spreading democracy" argument when it comes to foreign intervention. He was America's European, steadfast, both ideological and also very physical and material supporter. They were the first ones that immediately jumped up and said, under the Labour Party, under Tony Blair, that democracy must be a system that is spread through the knife, through the bullet, through the gun, through the tank. And it's just a continuation. Like, Labour was saved at some point when everybody gave up on Tony Blair, thank God. But then, through the finances of some people that ended up even being implicated with fucking Epstein, the Labour Party was moved to the right through the complete sabotage of Jeremy Corbyn.
This as soon as 2027. He's also said that target should increase...
Yeah, well, everything changes, nothing ever changes. War never changes type shit. Type shit! USS Shitster.
To 3% should the Labour Party win the next election. Simply incredible to not be able to believe in the prospect of world peace, but to be able to believe that the Labour Party is going to win the next election. The cash being diverted to the British Armed Forces at the moment is, according to the Prime Minister's office, the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. Which might sound like just one policy announcement among many, but once you begin to notice it, you realise quite how central the military has become to everything the current UK government does. Want to boost economic growth outside of London? How about the armed forces? Want to create jobs? How about the armed forces? Want to develop alternative forms of training for young people who don't want to go to university? How about the armed forces? This last announcement was explicitly framed as a response to a call by the UK's Chief of the Defence Staff for a whole-of-society approach to defence.
To foster skills and opportunities for our young people, and foster a sense of national pride and purpose that has characterized...
And you know the extra meme? I'm a Slav, so I get to do this. I get to do a little bit of Orientalism against my own tribe. The pitch always, especially in Western Europe, is like, okay, the Russians are capitalists, but they're like a heavily militarized oligarchy in which the only people that get like respect and money are those who join the state apparatus in service of the state apparatus. People who quote unquote sell out to the Kremlin and become soldiers, generals, military professionals, killers, etc., etc. We don't want that in Britain. I say, as I say that I want exactly that, and that we will grow our economy by creating a additional, let's say, layer of privilege around those who join the military. What the fuck? You get what I'm saying here, right? It's the same like the Trump, oh, we will defend Greenland against invasion by invading it. We will defend the British way of life against militarized oligarchic societies by militarizing for our oligarchy. You get what I'm saying here? This is not in defense or in against. Like, this is just like, what principles are you? You're not too different, bruv.
As our nation in times of conflict.
Kind of chilling. We're not just looking at isolated recruitment programs or purchases of military hardware here. We too are staring down a desire to recenter our entire economy and society around war.
We are moving to warfighting readiness as the central purpose of our armed forces.
This approach is echoing across Western European nations.
Yeah, but like, do you have TikTok?
当官就不要
Oh Jesus, Xi Jinping, terrified. Okay, man.
If a war was to break out, would you fight for this country?
Absolutely no way. If this England, ain't my country, I might be a British citizen, but I'm here.
If England was to go to war, would you fight for the country?
No. No. No.
You click on your citizenship.
If a war
was
to break
I have no ounce of patriotism in my body whatsoever.
If a war was to break out, would you guys fight for this country?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'd fight.
Can't come back to the UK and like have it changed. I love the UK. I mean, there's a chance of dying, but still wanna fight for my country.
What?
If a war was to break out, would you guys
Still wanna fight for my country, protect it.
Why is that important to you then? You know, defending your country. Why is it important to you?
Because I like how the country is now, and I think if we lost the war, it would change. I want to keep it the same.
People fought for us in World War I, World War II. You got to honour them. If you say no, you lose our country. You lose their progress.
If a war was to break out...
There you go. We had, what, 6 people? We got 2 that said yes. Okay. So that's who we want to be arming.
Since 2023, EU leaders have regularly talked about needing to shift the continent into war.
How can you like it the way it is now? I mean,
or economy mode.
They're children. Come on, guys, chill out. They don't know. Mama and Papa are paying for everything. Literally 0 labor hours for my boys. Ever.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is currently on a mission to build the strongest...
My boys think the economy is Mama and Papa paying for everything, you know? Didn't we all? Didn't we all think that capitalism worked when Mama and Papa paid for everything? Oh, wait, no, some of us were poor.
Conventional army in Europe, paid for with billions of euros worth of borrowing. France's new army chief of staff suggested in November that the country needed to be ready to lose its children.
L'accélération des périls commande d'accélérer le réarmement de la France. Cela suppose que la nation consente à des efforts à la mesure de notre rude époque.
The motivations of Starmer, Merz and Macron are evidently not the same as those of Putin or Netanyahu or even Trump. Europe's rearmament has much more in common with Thatcher than with Galtieri. It is reactive. Even if military leaders are clearly motivated to say shocking things and to overstate various threats in order to convince politicians to buy...
Wait, and American and Russian militarization is not reactive. Okay, okay, let's hear the argument. Like, it's not, like, the Russian and American one is not reactive because of domestic political support for those. Israel, I'm not going to touch. Israel is a different animal than everything we're talking about here.
The new toys, let's not pretend that there isn't some logic to this rearmament in an age of a belligerent Russia and a chaotic US.
All the United States is asking for is a place called Greenland.
And yet, I do think it's worth poking into the level of enthusiasm with which Starmer, Merz, Macron and other Western European leaders have thrown themselves into this real-life game of risk. Because there is something which all of these leaders do.
He's so cute, I'm gonna eat him.
Have in common with Trump and Netanyahu, if not Putin. All of the leaders who have been the most vocal about the need to be ready for war are also deeply unpopular.
Oh dear, you couldn't make this up. A new poll has revealed that Sir Keir Starmer is the least popular Prime Minister on record, and Rachel Reeves is the least popular Chancellor since their records began.
I need to start this section by showing you perhaps the worst video I've ever seen. And I have to watch my own loads of times.
Oh, gather round and lend me your ear. This is the tale of two-tier Keir.
This has nearly 1 million views.
Known across the land as the Granny Harmer, a soulless little man who betrayed the farmer. Hey!
Forget under 16s, I think you need to ban social media for the over 50s. It's again not just Keir Starmer or Donald Trump. We live in an age of unpopular leaders. Which sounds sensationalist or subjective. It sounds like I'm just telling you that I happen not to like many of today's world leaders, but it is a matter of record that over the past decade, the very act of being a politician in power has become something which makes politicians unpopular.
Okay, students, how do we answer that? Why, on average, is the popularity of every politician lowering? It's a good question. It's not a bad question. Politicians are mirrors of the current status quo, okay? We don't elect politicians and then they change things. We elect a type of politician that properly mirrors the kind of state we are in. So, they are less popular because everything sucks. If everything was the shit, we would mirror that in our politicians and we would love them for everything that they've given us. Politicians don't give you things. Systems give you things. Systems go through moments of crisis, moments of growth. Depending whether you're a politician in a moment of crisis or in a moment of growth will impact more than anything your popularity. Okay? The contradictions are becoming evident. Yes, Doogie.
This has been a massive turnaround. Throughout the relatively short history of popular democracy, it's generally been the case that one of the best things you can do if you want to win an election is to already hold the office that you're seeking. Unless you've really screwed things up, winning re-election has almost always been easier than being a challenger candidate. There's a name for this: the incumbency effect, named for the manner in which it favours the incumbent candidate. And you can see it in the results. 4 more years! 4 more years! Here in the UK, once a political party has won a single general election, they've tended to hold on for a few more. American presidents who stand for re-election have tended to be voted back in for another go at things. There are several potential explanations for this. Some of it is likely just down to voters simply being more familiar with the existing president, prime minister, or other representative. Particularly in elections for local representatives, a challenger candidate might literally just be a name that you've never heard before on a ballot paper. You might have no idea who they are. An existing MP or congressperson, however, is more likely to be a fully fleshed out person that you've seen on TV or at events with a face, a family, pets, a personality.
This time he's the lesser of two evils.
More than this, you've probably seen a candidate seeking re-election on TV or at an event in their capacity as that elected official. Everything a politician does in their job is basically a campaign ad for the next election. They're in the White House or on an aircraft.
Biden 2084. the Biden-Putin ballot.
Carrier or at the UN. If part of deciding who to vote for is considering whether a candidate could fulfill the basic requirements of the job, we don't have to do as much considering for an incumbent. We've already seen them doing it, and it has generally been the case in the past that people have found that reassuring.
To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair shot at making it.
Finally, being in office comes with a whole load of time that you can use for promoting yourself, and perhaps more crucially in countries like the US, where money plays an outsized role in politics, fundraise. Someone who is running for office while working another job isn't going to be able to spend as much time campaigning.
Okay, we all know this.